Namaskar. Today I am going to speak on how to write an auction notice. An auction notice has been and shall always be perhaps a major part of business communication, and as students of English language, all should know it. Now, why is this such an important document? It is important because it is generally issued by a public or semi-public organization. Whenever they want to dispose of something, they have to first write a notice and have it published, printed in a newspaper, or it should be displayed on their website and all public forums. The idea is to ensure that the basic integrity of the entire business deal is maintained. Some of the important features of an auction notice are: an auction notice is generally issued by a public or semi-public organization. Now, this is something that we need to remember always. Whenever a private entity or a person wants to dispose of something, that entity or a person does not have to write an auction notice. Even if they want to auction something, they can just advertise it, they can just inform the general public about it, but they need not write a formal auction notice at all. It is mandatory for the public or semi-public organizations to send an auction notice in major newspapers or dailies, because that ensures that the thing to be auctioned and the entire information regarding it has reached each and every corner of the public domain. That is very important for a student to understand. Now, this gives a semi-legal sanctity to whatever is written in the notice. An organization can actually be dragged to court if they give incomplete information in the notice, or if they do not honor any part of the information that is given out in this notice. Now, what does an auction notice actually do? It gives comprehensive information regarding the object's properties to be disposed of, and it also answers all the WH questions regarding the auction. What are the WH questions that it answers? Where, that is, where the auction will be held and when it is to be held. The when includes the time as well as the venue, the complete address of the venue where it is to be disposed of, what its formalities will be, and so on. So, these are the basic things we need to remember when we begin writing an auction notice. I've taken up a sample auction notice to make sure that it is clearly understood by all the listeners. A public auction will for the disposal of vehicles. In this sample notice, we are going to write an auction notice regarding the disposal of vehicles which are a property of a publicly owned organization, and now they need to be sold off. So, a public auction with P and A in capitals for the disposal of vehicles, we must mention the condition of the vehicles in good running condition. That has to be mentioned, because the vehicles can be almost given out like scrap if they are not working properly, right? So we need to write it down and then ensure that information is actually honored. So in good running condition will be held by this is something I have concocted for you. You will, of course, when it comes in your question paper, you need to read the particulars given. They may or may not give you an organization which is about going to dispose of the vehicles. So it is up to you, right? So will be held by Border Security Force at headquarters, BSF, ABC Road, Amritsar, Punjab. Now this address, the address that you need to give has to be very, very specific, and it has to be complete at the same time. So the name of the city, the state, okay, the road, then of course the headquarters of that organization, whichever is disposing of the articles, that all these have to be mentioned. On, then we come out with the date. The date has to be written in this format. You do not write 30th October or anything. You write this way only, right? Then at 1100 hours on as is where is basis. Now what is as is where is basis? This phrase is extremely important for all the persons who wish to write an auction notice. It is mandatory to write this, because if we do not do it, we will be forced to deliver the auctioned off article to the place where the person who has paid for it, who has bought it, will demand. Okay, so we need to write this, that the vehicles that or any other object that we are auctioning off will be sold on as is, that is, in the condition it is in. Because see, here, suppose we were auctioning off a house, right? The person who buys it can later on ask us to have it renovated or have it painted, right? So what we are selling off is to be sold in the condition as it is in. So as is, where is, the vehicles which are to be auctioned off are in the here, are in this address. They are available here in the headquarters of BSF at Amritsar, Punjab. Where is will ensure that when we auction them off, the person who buys them will solely be responsible for their transportation to wherever he wants to take those vehicles, right? We do not have any responsibility now of delivering the auctioned off article to where the buyer wants us to. So this phrase, as is where is basis, is extremely important, and all of you must include it in your notice. Another thing that you need to remember is that we have to be very careful about the number of words that we express ourselves in. Okay, so the number of words have to be very, very limited, because we have to pay according to the number of words. All right. So, and the lesser words we use, the less ambiguity will be there in the notice. So, what do? We have given this entire information in only one sentence. All right. The details. Now, the objects that need to be auctioned off have to be given a proper description. All right. The details of the vehicles to be disposed of are given below. Name, model, number of vehicles, this we have mentioned. Now we come to terms and conditions. No notice would be complete without any of these. So please remember that you need to include all the terms and conditions that I am going to tell you about. The first is, of course, all bidders shall have to deposit an amount of rupees 10,000 on spot as earnest money. Now, what is this earnest money? Earnest money is the advance amount, or you can call it a registration amount, that any bidder, any person who wants to make a bid on the articles to be disposed of. Now, earnest money is the registration amount. It shows that you are genuinely interested in bidding and buying that article. Because otherwise, anybody who is not even interested would just go and raise the bids. All you have to do is to raise your voice or your placard saying that yes, you are going to give 10,000 more for the same article, and somebody else who might be really interested in it may not be able to buy it. And once the auction is over, you can all say, okay, we don't want to buy it, we were just there for the fun of it. Nobody would do that if the person had already deposited 10,000 or any amount that is suitable for the purpose. He would then say that I have paid the earnest money, and this shows that I am genuinely interested in the auction. And only such a person would then follow all the terms and conditions which will come later on. Now, this earnest money is usually, rather always, it is deposited on spot. Right? On spot, there itself, when the auction is about to take place, the earnest money is deposited and it will be returned or adjusted after the auction. All right? This earnest money can be returned or it can be adjusted. If you happen to really buy one of the vehicles, then your 10,000 rupees would be adjusted as part of the payment for the vehicle. If you end up not buying the vehicle, your 10,000 rupees will be returned to you, right? Now, the second condition is 25% of the bid amount by the highest bidder shall have to be deposited on the spot at the fall of the hammer. Now, you all have seen auction scenes in the films. There's one person who's conducting the auction and he has a hammer in his hand and he, just bangs it down on the table saying that yes, 1, 2, 3, and now it is sold, right? Now, once the hammer falls, announcing that a particular article has been bought, the bidder has to deposit 25% of that amount there and then. Okay? The rest, what will happen to the rest of the amount? The balance will have to be deposited by demand draft drawn in favor of Inspector General Border Security Force, Punjab Division within 72 hours. The balance amount, that is 75% of the amount which the bidder has still to pay, will have to be given in 72 hours. All right. Now, if the bidder does not pay up within 72 hours, what will happen? Failing which, the amount already deposited will be forfeited. If that happens, that the bidder is unable to deposit the rest of the 75% of the money, what will happen then? His 25% amount that is already deposited will be forfeited. It will not be returned to him. The vehicles can be inspected during working hours on working days. Please remember that the organization which is auctioning off the articles is a public or semi-public organization. It is not expected to function on holidays. So what will happen is that if you want to buy those vehicles, you need to go and inspect them within working hours and on working days. Another thing that always needs to be mentioned is that whatever terms and conditions you may mention, something might crop up which might give you a fair warning that you perhaps do not want to sell the article to somebody whom you think is not honest, or maybe would use it for some wrong purpose or whatever. Any misgiving can be there. So the undersigned, who is the undersigned? This person who's the in charge of disposing of the article. Okay, so the undersigned reserves the right to accept or reject any bid. All right, then even then we may have left out something, or a bidder, a prospective bidder, might have some questions, might have some more, might need some more information about the vehicles, about anything that you are disposing of through the auction. So we need to write this line as well, that for more information, visit our official website, and you can, imagine, write one name of the website. The sender is the Inspector General, Border Security Force, Punjab Division. This happens to be the, what is Border BSF? This we said Amritsar, Punjab, so we have written Punjab Division there. And since the sender cannot be Border BSF at headquarters, right? So BSF needs to be led by somebody in that sector. So we have given the title Inspector General. The auction can be of anything, of any product, like it can be of vehicles, of scrap material, of property. Property is usually auctioned off by banks because, maybe somebody has defaulted on some loans or something. So then property is disposed of, or some public owned property can also be auctioned off for some bigger purpose that can be there. And of course, auctions. We do read about auction notices, and they are an important part of business writing communication. So I have seen that it is writing an auction notice is part of the curriculum of BCom, of BBA, of even BA students, and of BCA students, BSc students. So I think I rather hope that this lecture is useful for all of them. Thank you.